So here in this video we will discuss in short the 10 costliest battles of the Horus Heresy in terms of Space Marine casualties, both loyalists and traitors combined. Yep, that's the intro. Now let's get to it. At number 10 we have the Battle of Sotha. The Battle of Sotha saw the Night Lord's Traitor Legion attempt to seize control of the Pharos beacon on Sotha. Though on the periphery of Ultima Segmentum, the battle was strategically crucial as the Pharos beacon was key to maintaining the cohesion of Imperium Secundus. The Night Lord's invasion of the Sothan system began with a cunning plan involving a wrecked strike cruiser called Nicton, which was sent towards Sotha as a diversion. The Ultramarines would intercept and destroy the ship but were soon ambushed aboard the Relay Station 7 by a Night Lord's force. The Night Lords overran the Ultramarine defenses, with only a few scouts escaping to the surface to continue resisting. However, the Ultramarines under Pollux managed to inflict very heavy losses to the Night Lords in the siege of Mount Pharos and in Sothopolis. The battle would turn as a relief force crashed out of the warp into the Night Lords' fleet, disabling many of the traitor vessels. But the final blow would only occur when Dantioch overloaded the Pharos beacon, which killed most of the Night Lords' legionnaires in the primary location Alpha and disabled the majority of their ships, leaving them easy prey for the Ultramarine warships in orbit. In total there were 20,000 Night Lords, 947 Ultramarines, and 500 Dark Angels casualties in the ensuing chaos. Number 9. The Battle of Phal. The Battle of Phal was a crucial engagement between the Aryan warriors and the Imperial Fist during the Horus Heresy. After learning of Horus's betrayal, Rogaldon, the Primarch of the Imperial Fist, sent a Retribution fleet to strike back at the traitors. This fleet, representing a third of the Imperial Fist's strength of 300 companies or 30,000 Astartes, faced warp storms that cut them off in the False system, losing a third of the force to the Havoc. There they remained for 141 days, drilling and preparing for battle. Out of nowhere, the Aryan warriors, led by their Primarch Perturabo, launched a surprise attack. The Aryan warriors had superior numbers, but the battle didn't go as planned. The Imperial Fist, despite taking heavy losses in the beginning of up to 36 companies or 3,600 Astartes in the very first few minutes, then counterattacked with precision. Dawn's forces, equipped with the best technology from the Sol system, chipped away at the Aryan warriors' formation, using hit-and-run tactics that targeted the slower, heavily armored ships and causing thousands of Aryan warriors' casualties. In the end, both sides suffered similar massive casualties. Only a third of the Imperial Fist's fleet survived, even though they should have won the battle if it weren't for a psychic signal from their Primarch recalling them back to Terra. The battle was a bitch and death toll, around 20,000 Imperial Fists losing their lives both to the warp storms prior and to the ensuing fighting with the Aryan warriors, who themselves were said to have lost in kind in battle, which means around 10,000. Thus the total casualties in the Battle of Phal were 30,000 Space Marines. Number 8. The Thamus Crusade. The Thamus Crusade was a campaign of the Horus Heresy waged for 3 years far from Terra in Ultima Segmentum. The Night Lords went on a rampage of terror and mayhem against worlds loyal to the Imperium. The Thamus sector was almost entirely in the control of Conrad Curze and the Night Lords. It was a huge sector with a very handful of very important and large forge worlds, so the Dark Angels were facing a very large number of forces. Conrad had quite ample time to prepare and put up a very strong defensive line with very near unlimited supply from the worlds he controlled. Thus the Night Lords managed to tie up the Dark Angels, the Legion trusted with some of the most destructive technology from the Dark Age of technology, one that was led by the Primarch the Lion himself, and was tied up for 3 years, 3 whole years. However, they would eventually falter at the Dark Angels' assaults, relentless assaults, with the Night Lords losing 10,000 of their Space Marines in the Force-Fex bombardment of Salsagua, 10,000 in the Crucible, and 25% of the remaining 80,000 in Sheol 9, thus totaling 40,000 Night Lords dead, as well as 3,000 White Scars who were loyal to Horus, they were traitors, and also a very few thousand Dark Angels. Number 7. The Siege of Cthonia. The Siege of Cthonia was a key battle of the Horus Heresy, fought in 3 distinct stages. The initial phase, known as the First Siege, saw the planet largely fall into an Imperial Fist-led force in the year 006 of M31. Despite this, the Sons of Horus continued to resist, using the planet's vast underground caverns to wage a relentless guerrilla war for several years. In 013 of M31, a Sons of Horus splinter fleet returned to reclaim their homeworld, launching the second siege. In this phase, there were 15,000 Imperial Fists, which included 5,000 new recruits that were called inductee. There were also a force of 1,500 Astartes belonging to the Shattered Legions, and 3,000 of the Loyalists' Thousand Sons, which is a bit surprising. The traitor forces were composed of 20,000 Sons of Horus, 12,000 Word Bearers, and 2,000 Alpha Legionnaires. Yeah, there were hundreds of thousands, probably millions of regular human troops on both sides as well. The losses were near total in both sides when the Dark Angels reached the planet at the end of the Heresy, thus creating the third siege, and Vortex bombed it to hell. This means that the death toll was likely around 50,000 dead, both loyalists and traitors, just the Space Marines, and almost all inhabitants of Horus's homeworld. Number 6. The Shadow Crusade. The Shadow Crusade was a Horus Heresy campaign led by the Word Bearers and the World Eaters against the Ultramarines' 500 worlds. While the Ultramarines were engaged in the Battle of Calt, Lorgar and Angron led a bloody rampage across Ultramar to fuel the creation of the Runestorm, a massive warp storm intended to isolate Ultramar and the Eastern Galaxy from Terra. On Nuceria, the traitor forces were met by Guilliman's Ultramarines, leading to a fierce battle. After dueling Guilliman, Angron was transformed into a demon Primarch by Lorgar through a coordinate ritual, further fueling the Runestorm. This storm divided the Imperium, isolating important legions like the Ultramarines, Dark Angels and Blood Angels, and forcing Guilliman to form Imperium Secundus. The total casualties of this prolonged conflict costed the life of 50,000 Word Bearers, tens of thousands of World Eaters, and also heavy losses for the Ultramarines as well. Number 5. The Battle of Prospero. After Magnus, in his innocent attempt to warn the Emperor of Horus's betrayal, breached the psychic wards and tore a hole in the webway, causing millions of demons to rush in and spoil the Emperor's ultimate plans for humanity. The Emperor then sent forth Russ, Leman Russ, and this was supposed to be a straightforward mission: apprehend Magnus the Red and bring him to Terra for judgment and censure. But with Horus there scheming, the message was twisted from that of an arrest into utter annihilation. Accompanied by the Sisters of Silence and 91 Soladites of the Custodians, the Space World's Legion descended on Prospero like a storm. But Magnus, even though initially in a surrendering mood, he and his 1,000 sons however fought on. The execution turned into a massive battle, a war of sorcery against steel, of arcane might against the unbreakable resolve of the Emperor's Chosen. Legion versus Legion plus Nulls and Custodes. The massacre of the 1,000 Sons was notable, with them losing 90% of their numbers, which comes to around 79 to 80,000, and the Wolves also losing 23,000 of their own. This brings the total to more than 100,000 Astartes dead in the burning of Prospero. Number 4. The Battle of Isvan III. The Battle of Isvan III was a key event during the Horus Heresy. It was the beginning of it all. Initially, the Sons of Horus, the World Eaters, the Death Guard, and the Emperor's children were sent to crush a rebellion led by Vardus Pral on Isvan III. Over 200,000 Astartes landed, and the fighting started with heavy skirmishes on the planet's surface. However, the true danger was Horus's plan. He secretly prepared to eliminate the loyalist elements within his own ranks, deploying the Life Eater virus to wipe out all life on the planet. The virus killed loyalist Space Marines and rebels alike, leaving only a toxic wasteland. However, some loyalists, including Saul Tarvids of the Emperor's Children, had been warned in time and found shelter, surviving the attack. After the virus bombing, Angron and the World Eaters prematurely landed, forcing Horus to send in his forces to fight the surviving loyalists. Led by Garvin Loken and Tarek Torgadon, these loyalists made a heroic last stand, inflicting heavy losses on the traitors. But the loyalists were betrayed from within, as Lucius of the Emperor's Children turned on his comrades. Despite their bravery, the loyalists were ultimately overwhelmed. In the final phase, Horus ordered orbital bombardments that obliterate the remaining defenders. Thus, the total death toll would be more than 100,000 loyalists, along with tens of thousands of traitor Astartes. Then we come to number 3, the Battle of Calt. The Battle of Calt was one of the most brutal engagements of the Horus Heresy, fought between the loyalist Ultramarines and the traitorous Word Bearers. It took place in the 500 worlds of Ultramar, specifically on Calt, which was an important system in the eastern part of the galaxy. Horus in the beginning ordered Guilliman to gather the majority of the Ultramarines at Calt, ostensibly to counter an Orc threat in the Viridian system. Guilliman, who was unaware of Horus's treachery, mustered 20 of the Legion's 22 chapters, numbering 200,000 alongside the word-bearers, who were secretly traitors at this point of time. Shortly before the battle began, First Chaplain Erebus arrived to lead a dark ritual, signaling the start of the word-bearers' treachery. Then the word-bearers opened fire on the Ultramarines and their allies, slaughtering thousands, including entire companies of the Ultramarines. As Guilliman realized the betrayal, he initially pleaded with Lorgar to cease fire, but Lorgar revealed the full scope of Horus's rebellion. This led to Guilliman ordering the Ultramarines to fight back and destroy the word-bearers' legion. Meanwhile in Kalt, Corpheron and Erebus led dark rituals that summoned demons and turned Kalt's weapons against the Ultramarines. This surprise attack by the word-bearers and the ensuing fighting culminated in devastating losses, with over 100,000 Ultramarines dead and millions of civilians killed as chaos engulfed the entire planet. Despite their dire situation, the Ultramarines resisted fiercely, aided by Captain Eunit Thiel's unconventional tactics that saved the rest from total annihilation. With Guilliman returning to the battle after surviving the vacuum of space for 10 hours, and also several large battle groups led by a mix of Ultramarines began fighting back against the word-bearers, the tide soon shifted. The battle in space was also eventually won after the orbital defense grid was reactivated. While the Ultramarines were still in a bad spot, they had rallied and were fighting back with a ferocity that startled the word-bearers. In the end, the word-bearers' fleet along with their flagship the Infidus Imperator was destroyed. The total casualties among Space Marines were nearly 120,000 Ultramarines and almost all 50,000 of the word-bearers. At number 2 we have the IS15 Massacre. We all know the unfortunate fates of the 3 legions in the infamous Dropsite Massacre. Just to refresh your memory, once the news of the treachery of Horus and the other 3 legions reached Terra, a combined force of 7 legions, including the Loyal 3, the Raven Guard, the Salamanders, and the Iron Hands, were sent to destroy the traitors. They were sent along with 4 others, who were the Word-Bearers, the Night Lords, the Iron Warriors, and the Alpha Legion, who had secretly turned code. The sequence of events, in a nutshell, was that the first wave of 3 loyal legions made planetfall and fought the traitors to a standstill. Then the larger second wave landed along with the 4 legions that had turned traitors. The loyal 3 were stuck in a kill zone that saw them entirely obliterated, with only 5,000 Raven Guards surviving from a total of 80,000, less than 2,000 Salamanders from 83,000, which was a 98% loss, and also tens of thousands of Iron Hands warriors, along with their Primarch Ferrus Manus, who was slain by Fulgrim. As for the remaining Iron Hands which arrived later, their fates are noted in the Veritas Ferrum audio drama. Littering the far orbit of the Isvan star was a graveyard of loyalist ships. Some had been caught as they attempted to escape, but many more were simply torn apart by enemy fire as soon as they emerged from the Immaterium. The Iron Hand's second wave had been virtually obliterated. So in total, the Raven Guard lost 75,000 Astartes, the Salamanders around 81,000 or more, and the Iron Hands likely in the same range, with the majority dying in the fleet ambush in space. However, even the traitors suffered heavy losses, with likely as many as between 20 and 30,000 dead, since the death toll in the Dropsite Massacre alone was said to have contained more than 200,000 dead Space Marines. This was one of the costliest in terms of Astartes' lives and nearly wiped out 3 entire legions. And number 1, the Siege of Terra. The Siege of Terra, the climactic battle of the Horus Heresy, led to devastating losses on both sides, with many hundreds of thousands of Space Marines perishing in the struggle for humanity's future. Traitor legions like the Sons of Horus, the Death Guard, the World Eaters, and the Emperor's Children suffered massive casualties as they assaulted the Imperial Palace, with many of their elite warriors wiped out. And as we all know, the attacking force always lose more lives than the properly entrenched and defending force. The Iron Warriors, despite their siege expertise, were also heavily hit, and even the sneaky Alpha Legion were hit badly. The sorcery-driven Thousand Sons, with their drastically reduced numbers, lost more. The Word-Bearers under Layak suffered massive casualties. The Emperor's Children, after a while, decided to retreat and seek pleasure elsewhere due to the insane attrition rate. On the Loyalist side, the Imperial Fist under Rogel Dawn bore the brunt of the defense, losing tens of thousands of Astartes in brutal fighting. The Blood Angels also suffered heavily, especially during the defense of the Eternity Gate, while the White Scars used their hit-and-run tactics to limit their losses. The total losses would eclipse even the Dropside Massacre, with hundreds of thousands of Astartes on both sides losing their lives, and probably would be under 1 million Space Marine dead in total. So those are the 10 most fatal Astartes battle of the Horus Heresy. Yeah, we also have part 2 in the making with 10 more even horrific or less horrific battles of the Horus Heresy. Anyway, if you like this one, then watch this other one too, and if you want to browse for other sci-fi and Warhammer content, then check out our channel. So subscribe and like for support. And yeah, while you're at it, bang on that bell icon for notifications on new video uploads. Till the next time, take care, boys.